Well guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different. This is a good mate of mine, Andrew English, or Andy to those who know him. He's been asking me to come down here for the last couple of years to give him an appraisal, and I thought, well, we've already done a day in the life of real estate agent. You can go and watch that video if you like. That's boring. Andrew is actually probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met. We've known each other for 5 years?
Yeah, around 5 years.
Around 5 years. Andy, like most people, when he first met me, didn't really like me. Thought I was a bit of a lunatic, and not much has changed, I don't think.
No, you've sort of grown on me over time. It's taken a while, but no, you're always good. You're always good from the start. Very persistent.
Very persistent.
But it's good. Thanks for coming down, mate. It's been good.
Well, thanks for having us. So this is going to be the first ever Conversations Over Coffee, where we get to sit down, have interesting conversations with like-minded people, hear about their story. And Andy actually has one of the most incredible stories you've ever heard. But before we get into that, who is Andrew English? What do you do?
My name's Andrew English. I'm a filmmaker, adventurer, and run a business called Safari, which is an adventure lifestyle automotive business, and we film content all around the world.
Yeah, the production quality that you do compared to this one, and no disrespect to what we're doing, but the production quality that you do blows my mind. I follow you obviously all on social.
Thanks,
you work with brands like Range Rover, Jeep, Tourism Australia, Tourism Victoria. How did you become a filmmaker?
Look, I always dabbled in filmmaking. I was a graphic designer by trade and an industrial designer, so I've kind of always morphed into different roles. I get bored and then I change roles, but always around the creative fields. And, 10 years ago, to be a filmmaker, you needed a lot of money. Filmmaking gear was expensive. It was a totally different craft. Whereas now, you can buy gear, you can buy a camera for $5-6 grand. So I think when the technology emerged and it was more accessible, I upskilled. I was working as a creative director at one of Australia's leading advertising agencies called Cummins and Partners. And I was hanging out with all the directors. They were doing all the cool stuff. So I was doing these shitty designs in graphic design, and these guys are making Jeep videos. I'm like, I want to do that. So somehow we were pitching for the Kathmandu account, the outdoor account. And because I did a bit of hiking, I remember the creative director said, Andrew, you know about hiking, do you want to be the creative director on the account? I'm like, shit, yeah. So suddenly I'm the creative director on Kathmandu. Next thing they're like, pack your bags, we're going to China to film the latest brand campaign. And this is the first time I've travelled. Went over there, worked in China, went to we did a snow shoot for the brand. And it was the best time of my life. And I thought, I just couldn't believe you can get paid to do this. And there's dudes on this shoot, they're filming there. And I said, look, you guys do this regularly? And they're like, yep. So the minute I went back, I guarded that account. I was like a mother hen and sat on the account. I wouldn't let anyone near it. And because I didn't want anyone else to work on it. It was so selfish. But I upskilled through that. And then I thought, I may as well, I thought after a while, surely there must be a market to run your own business that specialises in outdoor content, lifestyle content. Everyone wants to travel. Everyone wants to get outside. Everyone wants to drive cars and live an adventure. So we started our brand Safari with the purpose of attracting that sort of stuff, and also as a real lifestyle. I started the business when I was 50, when most people are burnt out and your career's over. And I certainly thought that might be the case. Who starts a business or can be creatively relevant still? But for me, it was also a way to keep relevant and keep reinventing. And luckily, there's enough of a niche for us to survive.
And now, I guess your brand Safari has now evolved from just creating, ads or commercials for these brands. Like, you're now into full documentaries, you're filmmaking, producing your own films as well.
Yep. Yeah. I think the commercial stuff's awesome, but for us, you've got to constantly be pushing the creative boundaries. And for us, we do it with our own projects. So we do our own adventure films, short stories. We did a film on myself, which was about wing foiling. But we use our own stories as a test bed to learn, be creative, and also then we can show them to our clients without, it's hard on a commercial job because you've got a very specific purpose. With our own stuff, you've got to be making your own stuff, and that's the way we always do it.
Well, talking about your own documentary for wing foiling, you might not know it by looking at him, but Andrew is actually a world record holder.
Oh, well, it's not a record because there's no world record yet, but no, the world's first person to wing foil across Bass Strait from Tasmania to Victoria. So there's no record or anything because no one's done it yet.
No one's done it yet.
So I'm the only one who's stupid enough to do it.
So you're the world's first person
Correct.
to ever wing foil from Tasmania to Victoria.
It's a very niche area because there's only about 10 wing foilers in Australia.
Because my understanding is you'd only just started wing foiling maybe for a couple of months, and you've just come up with this idea to go, let's go big.
Well, it was during COVID, like most people in Melbourne, it was miserable. As filmmakers, we couldn't work. We're stuck inside. I'm literally checking my emails going, I'm never going to get it. No one, it's like empty. The email box, the inbox is empty. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? At this point, like most people, we didn't know how long we'd go for. So I was just Googling around. Found this new sport called wing foiling. And I thought, I may as well give it a try because I need to do something during that 1 hour we were allowed out. So living close to the beach, I went and bought a setup, took it down to Elwood, learned how to use it and just became obsessed. Like went out every day. Suddenly I had a purpose. Got me out of my depression, got me out of my funk. And then one day I was sailing across the bay and I did 60 Ks in Port Phillip Bay. And I thought, I wonder how far it is to Tassie. I was looking at the heads and I thought, I wonder if I could get to Tassie just as a thought. Got home, entered it in the computer. The biggest leg is 80 Ks because there's islands all across Bass Strait. I thought if I can do 60, I can do 80. Went home and said, I'm going to be the first person to wing foil across Bass Strait. 6 months later, made it happen.
It's such a crazy thing to think of. I'm going to wing foil. For those of you who don't know, we'll put some footage up. But wing foiling is essentially like it's a surfboard that's got a fin that comes at the bottom, like a hydro foil.
Yep.
And then you hold onto a kite.
Onto a wing, yeah.
Onto a wing, yeah. You hold onto a wing. And so the documentary, you called it Gone with the Wing.
Yep, of course.
Such a great play on words. Such a great play on words. And how long did that journey take you to wing foil from Tasmania to Victoria?
So we did it in stages because, again, as a filmmaker, I've spent my life interviewing people and I thought, I'm never behind the camera myself. I'm never doing this, talking on camera. So I thought, it wasn't my intention, but I thought, I'm the one who's doing it, let's film it. And then it became a story on my journey, which was interesting. So that was kind of the catalyst, and we wanted to do it as a little doco, but we didn't know where that would go. I thought, we'll do a doco, it might end up on YouTube or on our channel. The journey took 4 days across, because we island hopped across from Tassie to Flinders Island to Deal Island. There's this stunning, absolutely stunning islands, uninhabited islands across Bass Strait. You can only get there by boat. And for me, part of that was the journey, not just the destination, but also enjoying that along the way. So we did it over 4 days.
Over 4 days.
Yeah, and then ended up at Wilson's Prom, where we touched down.
But in order for wing foiling to work, you need wind.
You need wind.
Were there any moments where there wasn't any wind?
Yeah, I mean the challenge is most people we had a support boat because I'm crazy but I'm not stupid and you could do it without it but it'd be a death mission. So we had a support boat, but the challenge is I want wind, the boat doesn't want wind because if you get the seas are too big, the support boat wouldn't be able to follow us. On the first day we started off and it was the opposite. We had no wind. So I'm there, the cameras are rolling, I'm dead in the water and I sat in the water for 4 or 5 hours in the middle of Bass Strait. There's there's huge fish around me, there's gulls around me, like we're in serious ocean. There's big animals there that are going to eat you, underneath you. And I sat there for hours and couldn't get going. So it was a complete fail the first day. And I'm thinking the whole mission's a failure. And all my insecurities came up, got back on the boat, I was devastated. And luckily we regrouped the next day, the wind picked up and we managed to have good winds for the rest of it. But you need a decent amount of wind, but not too much wind, that the sea's going to be heinous.
We were talking about like the big fish out there. So that stretch of water, well, that strait, the Bass Strait, is some of the most dangerous water on Earth, right? Because there's a huge Pacific Ocean and then it flows through this tiny channel.
That's right.
Like, when you're in there, I'm sure it looks big, but if you look geographically compared to the size of Australia and Tasmania, it's such a narrow stretch of water.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the documentary with you in Windsor and just seas rolling, and then also like all the birds are around you. Like I think at one point you must have been sitting in just this massive pod of fish because birds are skydiving, things are splashing, and I'm like, there's definitely a big like, there's a big white whale just doing circles underneath you.
Oh, for sure.
There's so many sharks in those waters.
Yeah, for sure. And I was in the water a lot of time. I was sitting there on that board waiting for wind for hours with my feet dangling in there. At one point I was asleep and the film crew saw these fins behind me circling and they kept filming and they thought, he's gone. That's what he And it turns out they were dolphins. But I was asleep. Like I was literally on my board, I had my head down. I was just trying to regroup, trying to chill out, calm myself down. But, you know, there was times there where, you're right, Bass Strait is notorious because it's such a shallow part of water, and there's convergence between these two huge between the Tasman Sea. So you end up with massive waves because it's so shallow. So it is very treacherous, even though it's not a huge body of water. But when you're out there floating in it, and at points I couldn't see the boat, it is a very big place to be in when you're this tiny person sitting on a 5-foot surfboard, and that's the only thing you got.
But I love as well that like when you set out on this journey, you're like, I'm going to wing foil from Tasmania to Victoria. You know, I'm going to document the whole thing because I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And not having any intention of where it will go. You just wanted to create something and you created it and it's unbelievable. And then now I see you popping up all over the globe at these film events.
Yeah.
And I see you've won a couple of awards for the show. Like that's... To do something just for fun and then to be rewarded, I think must feel pretty good.
Yeah, look, it was amazing because the intention was we'll document it and we love being creative and making stories. Even if 20 people see them, we love doing that because it's still an expression of creativity. Obviously you want a bigger audience, but as soon as we started the journey, I don't know, somebody found out about it and the ABC called us, Channel 7 called us. Within about a week, I'd done like 40 radio interviews. I was in New Zealand, I was on, Radio International, and it was bizarre because that wasn't the intention. But somehow that story resonated. I think everyone can relate to Bass Strait because it's treacherous. There's this new sport. It's quite extreme. To me, it was just fun, but to most people, it seemed crazy. So, we didn't expect that it would be picked up and people would have an interest in it. It also had a mental health angle, which I think added to it because it was my journey, and a lot of people during COVID were battling with. People are battling now with mental health. So many of my mates are struggling, but we all find our ways. And for me, my way is to get on the water, do something creative, and do something on the ocean. It's my medicine. So that resonated, and then it's still touring around the world, at film festivals. So we were very honoured.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I'm definitely going to, I'll link to Savari, obviously, in the description, so you go and have a look. But you said at the start as well, you're an adventurer, and you genuinely are an adventurer. Like you do four-wheel driving, you wing foil, but you're also a pilot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have your own plane, you fly solo. Like, how long have you been doing that?
Probably 5 years. Again, before COVID, it was one of those things I wanted to tick off just because I loved flying as a kid. But, I just didn't think it was possible. So as part of our job, we fly around a lot. We're in choppers, we're in small planes. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I can do it myself? Because again, as a creative project, what a great way to do creative adventures, combining filming and even taking people up in the plane. It's great because once you're above the ground, life takes on a different perspective and you're totally in the moment. Like you can't think about anything else when you're flying. So for me, I get bored pretty easily, so I love upskilling. And if I can do it as a creative project, even better. So that was the purpose for it. And, I'm still exploring that and doing shows and doing adventures based around that for sure. And also I love flying, like whether it's flying on the wing foil or flying on a plane, it's the same thing.
Well, I love how old are you, Andy?
56.
I have friends of mine, I think we spoke about this the other day, who are in their 30s. And they have conversations with them. They say, I can't wait till I retire. I said, well, what are you waiting for? I said, I can't wait to retire so I can play more golf. I can't wait till I retire so I can go surfing. I can't wait till I retire till I go traveling. And that to me is so sad. Like you've got a limited amount of time on this planet. Like why are you waiting to do something that you want to do? And that's why I love talking to you. I think we get along so well because I'm a bit of an up and about guy. I like to do things and keep busy. And then I watch what you're doing and I feel like I'm not doing enough because I see you doing everything. You're not waiting for anything. You're just like, I want to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And you get out there and get it done. It's awesome.
Oh, look, like you, Jess, you've got to create your own projects, and time is short. You know, even if you've got kids and family, like incorporate them in your projects, take them along on the journeys. It's fantastic. But I feel time's ticking. You know, definitely once you pass 50, time is ticking. There's no question. People are getting sick. Keep fit, try and do adventures. And also for me, I've got to keep relevant creatively, and that's one way to do it. Perhaps it's selfishness, perhaps it's insecurity. But, you know, I don't want to be sitting there punching, you know, sitting at the pokies. I want to be doing stuff, you know, till I cark it, doing adventures. And you can keep going till you're 80, just change your adventures slightly.
And what's on the immediate horizon for you? What are you sort of working on at the moment that you're excited about?
Well, the wing foiling is that's my wheelhouse. I mean,
Yeah.
I could do that all day. It's something that, you know, people talk about surfing or whatever their sport is. For me, I could do that all day. I just never have a bad day.
You should jump onto Strava and follow Andrew English, because I'm looking at it every day. It's like 60 kilometre wing foil, 30 kilometre wing foil, 40 kilometre wing foil. And I'm looking outside and it's like Melbourne winter. It's like 12 degrees, pouring down rain. And there's Andrew on the Strava just doing like 3 hours of wing foiling. It's incredible.
It's a good sport. I mean, Saturday was in Melbourne. There was storm warnings, storm surge, massive tides. Ness, my partner, said, "Don't go out. You're crazy." The kids were crying, and I said, "This is normal. This is awesome." So we went out for 4 hours. You know, no one was on the water, and the bay was like a tsunami out there. But I was just thriving in it. Like, you go, how can you go in those conditions and have fun? Like, you know, it was bleak. It was getting hailed on. It was like getting smashed. 80-kilometre winds. It was 40 knots at times, and I was just getting hammered. But absolutely in my element. So what my mission is now is to continue doing stuff that focuses on stories. Mental health, I love helping and talking about that because I've suffered it myself, and I know so many people I know, you know, are battling it. So I think things that allow me to talk about that, as introduce, you know, and meet people around that space, combined with adventure. And in the wing foiling zone, I'm going to continue to do some projects. I've got some amazing adventures coming up that I'm working on, big adventures in the same vein that we'll film. And on a sort of smaller level, this winter I'm going to be doing a series of ice foils and making documentaries on them up in the Australian Alps, where we'll aim to foil in some high altitude alpine lakes in winter. So I want to take my ski with my gear up there, backcountry ski, and then set up the wing foil and do it on some lakes in the snow. So,
in the snow?
Yeah, and possibly with ice on the lakes. We're going to have to dig the ice out. So that's my current mission, which I'll be doing over the next few weeks, hopefully.
Mate, I think it's so fascinating. I could honestly sit here and talk to you all day. I find you so motivational and inspirational, like what you're doing. I love everything that you create. I absolutely love. Like,
thanks,
you can
mate.
see the story and the effort that goes into it. And you're just a great bloke, so I appreciate you coming on the channel. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. I'll put all the links in the bio so you can go and see Andy, his personal page. Check him out on Strava because it's honestly incredible. And then Safari as well. You can go and see the work that they create. So thank you, Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Awesome. Thanks for your time,
Thanks,
Jess.
man. It's a pleasure.
Awesome to have a coffee and chew the fat.
Yeah. Conversations over coffee.